Hey guys, it's Lizzie. In today's video, I'm going to talk about public breastfeeding and why I breastfeed without a cover. I've been so shocked when making videos on Instagram and TikTok about breastfeeding, how negative people are in the comments. A lot of people say that women should never breastfeed in public, that they should breastfeed in the bathroom or in a separate room. Other people say if you are going to breastfeed in public, you need to have a blanket over your entire baby. And then there's other people who say that when in public, you should bring a bottle to feed your baby rather than feeding directly from your breast. The sad reality is that a lot of Americans sexualize breastfeeding, which is so unhinged because God's design in creating breasts was to feed babies, to nurture our children. There's a wide range about breastfeeding norms in different countries, and the US is definitely extreme where a lot of people hate when women breastfeed in public. I thought I would make a really chill and kind video responding to these comments. So I'm gonna start with the story of why I decided to never use a cover while breastfeeding. Before I started breastfeeding, I thought I would always use a cover. I never wanted part of my breast exposed. And the reason is because I just have a personal modesty rule where I never show cleavage, even in bathing suits, even at the gym. And so it was hard for me to mentally get over that, no, it's okay to show some of my breasts because I'm feeding my child. But at the beginning, I didn't think like that. So my baby was born at the beginning of summer and it was in the 90s. It was so hot the whole time. One time at Mass on Sunday, my baby was hungry and so I put the cover over her and was latching her and she started screaming so loud and was inconsolable, and so I had to take her and walk out of Mass to try to calm her down. What happened is my baby got overheated by having a blanket over her head and over half of her body. And so she was just screaming even after I fed her without a cover and was trying to help her calm down. My baby was just in so much pain. She was so sad. She was so confused. And when I was reflecting back on that moment later in the day, I was thinking, why am I prioritizing how strangers view me above my own baby? This is my baby. My number one priority is to love her and take care of her and provide for her. And why was I putting her in such a painful and uncomfortable position and instead prioritizing the opinion of people I don't know? So after that happened, for the rest of the summer, I decided to never use a cover. But when it got colder outside, what I would notice is if I'm wearing a sweatshirt and it's kind of on her ear while she's eating, she will actually take her hand and remove it. I have my baby here right now. I'll actually show you how that works. So I'm gonna put this over her head. You want to do it one more time? If you put the cover over her head. Yeah, she really hates that. Something else is that early in my baby's life, it would have been impossible to latch my baby with the cover just because early on, babies' necks are so weak that they cannot lift their head up. And so early on in breastfeeding, you have to use two hands, one to hold the boob, one to hold and position the baby's head. And so with the cover, it was impossible for me when I tried to, in public, put a cover over, then take out my boob, then hold the baby's head, then latch the baby. That would require 3 or 4 hands. And so for me, breastfeeding with a cover from the beginning would mean I just could not breastfeed in public. And this video is not at all to shame any moms who want to use a cover in public. For some women, they feel more comfortable with that. And so if a woman does want to use a cover and they're able to use a cover successfully with their baby without the baby overheating, that's completely fine. I think every mom should do what makes her and her baby the most comfortable. But I think that a lot of women feel pressured into doing that. And if they had a complete freedom away from everyone's opinions, they might choose to not use a cover and to just use discreet breastfeeding clothing. Over the summer, I did end up purchasing a lot of breastfeeding clothing that either opens here or has a zipper on the side to open it up. So honestly, even without using a cover, it still looks really modest and discreet, and the baby's head covers your nipple. And so I honestly think a lot of people walking by me in public wouldn't even know that I'm breastfeeding. A lot of people, when they hear without a cover, might think that the woman is like taking her shirt off or something, but it's really not like that. All that happens is the nipple will be out for like 3 seconds, and then you'll latch the baby. And then even if like this whole part of your shirt is off, the baby's head will cover up the boob. And so it's really, I think, difficult for breastfeeding to not be discreet, just because the baby's head is over the nipple, the baby is covering the breast. And so I bought discreet breastfeeding clothing, but even moms who don't, it's just not going to be distracting. The one exception of where I don't breastfeed in public is at my job when I'm teaching the kids at my church in CCD and youth group. I took about 4 months off of work from those jobs from when I gave birth, and so by the time it started up again, my baby was eating a lot less, so it was easy to feed her before or like step away and feed her for like 5 or 10 minutes during. So that's a situation that's different, but in every other part of my life, I do breastfeed in public without a cover. My thinking in being in public for breastfeeding is that if my husband and I are sitting at a restaurant by ourselves, or I'm at the beach or the grocery store or a museum or a park, and I'm breastfeeding my baby, everyone who's a stranger there can look away. I actually think it would be really weird if in situations like that, obviously it's different if you're like sitting around a table with a ton of people, but if you're just in public with your husband or your family and someone sees your nipple out for 3 seconds, that means they were staring at your chest. You know what I mean? Like, normal people are not going around like staring at every woman's chest. That's so weird. And then if by chance someone sees it out of the corner of their eye, they can look away. It's really, really simple. First, I want to respond to the people who say that even with a cover, you shouldn't breastfeed in public. You should go to the bathroom or a closet or just not go in public. So these are some of the reasons that breastfeeding in public needs to happen and should be normalized. The biggest reason early on is that babies eat extremely slowly at the beginning of their lives, and my baby at least wanted to be breastfeeding 8 hours a day. Infants take long breaks between each suck because it's a full-time job starting off. If you don't want women to breastfeed in public, you're basically saying that moms shouldn't be in public. They shouldn't be socializing with people. And while first-time moms might be able to stay home all day, if you have multiple kids, it becomes impossible to run errands and just do your life if you're taking care of an infant. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that about breastfeeding, that it takes hours and hours every day during the infant stage. You can't just like go to the bathroom, feed your baby for 5 minutes and come back. No, that's essentially just banishing new moms from public life, which is so unnecessary. So then I want to respond to the people saying, just make a bottle when you're going in public. My baby was just crying. She needed some milk and comfort. Why can't you just feed your baby a bottle of pumped milk in public? Is that breast milk that you pump at home is not pasteurized, so you cannot leave it out for a long period of time if you're going to be out a lot throughout the day. And there are things that exclusively pumping moms have to bring their pumped milk in public and have it throughout the day. They sell really expensive thermoses or like ice chests for breastfeeding that can keep the milk good throughout the day, even though it's not pasteurized. And so I personally don't own any of that because I'm able to direct breastfeed, and so it's already expensive enough having a baby, and I do not want to spend money on all of these things that I don't need when I can just publicly breastfeed. But the other thing is a lot of babies refuse to drink milk if it's not warm. From the beginning, my baby has always had bottles of my pumped milk, but if it's not warm, she will not drink it. She hates cold milk. And so maybe people who exclusively pump or do formula carry around like thermos to keep the milk warm, or for formula like they keep the water warm then to mix with the formula. I honestly don't know how they do it, but for my baby, if I was going to just feed her my pumped milk in public all the time, I would have to walk around with her bottle warmer And then I would have to bring like an ice chest. It's just this whole ordeal. Like, bringing a bottle of pumped milk works if you're out for 1 or 2 hours, but long term, if you have to go out in public to do things, especially if you have other kids and are running a household, need to run errands, all of that, it honestly just doesn't work long term. The biggest problem with this is that women can get clogged ducts and develop mastitis if they go too long without direct breastfeeding or pumping their milk. I've gotten mastitis twice. It's like having the flu, and you can actually go into septic shock and die from it. It's really serious, and the reason mastitis can happen if you go too long without emptying your breast, and you can get clogged ducts as well, which is really painful. And so if a mom was going to go in public for a few hours a day and feed her baby a bottle of pumped milk, she would need to be pumping her milk with a breast pump at the same time if she was going to consistently be going in public. You have to remove the milk from your breast or it's unsafe. You could develop mastitis, clogged ducts, and also it's just like really painful if you're engorged. And so if you're breastfeeding your baby, you can't just be like, oh, I want to go in public throughout the week, I'm just going to feed my baby a bottle. No, you have to bring a breast pump then for the safety of the mom and to keep up your milk supply. Not pumping during that time, you can decrease your milk supply. And so for it to work long term, to not direct breastfeed in public, you would need to buy all of these thermoses, ice chest things. You'd need some like portable bottle warmer. You'd have to bring your breast pump, and then you'd have to bring a place to store the pumped milk. It's just like a super complicated process, and I do not want to do that when I go in public, when I can just direct breastfeed. I'd rather just go with my baby and feed her in public. There are also so many health benefits to breastfeeding, and if you pump your milk versus direct breastfeeding, it's actually more healthy to directly breastfeed because there's certain health benefits to the baby from direct breastfeeding. One of them is preventing asthma and the development of the teeth. And so it's better for the baby to drink directly from the breast than to eat from a bottle. And that's not at all to shame moms who do exclusive pumping or do feed bottles sometimes. From the beginning, my husband fed our baby bottles a few times a day, and so I'm not at all against bottle feeding. I'm just saying if a woman can and wants to direct breastfeeding, it's better for the baby's health long term, and we shouldn't say she can't do that in public because you're uncomfortable. If you don't want a baby to cry, if you don't want to hear a baby, the number one thing to do is for the mom to breastfeed the baby because babies are so calm. When I'm on a flight with my baby, I just breastfeed my baby the entire time, and my baby like barely makes any sounds. And so breastfeeding is not just milk for the baby, it's comfort. And my baby also takes naps by drinking milk. It's honestly so funny to me because the people who are sexualizing breastfeeding and are against breastfeeding in public, if they only knew that babies will be so quiet and calm if they're able to breastfeed in public. These people likely also hate hearing babies in public, and breastfeeding is the key to have calm babies in public. So I actually did that when going to mass at the beginning, but it turned out that my baby drank milk from the bottle so loud that it was so distracting, and it was actually less distracting to just breastfeed my baby in mass because she did that really quiet, but with the bottle, the sound of the bottle and her sounds, it was so distracting. And so I decided to be less distracting, I'm just gonna nurse her. I'm going to make a whole video about attending mass with the baby, but what I do at mass is I bring my breastfeeding pillow, I put it like this, I latch my baby, she drinks milk, and takes a nap. And so if you want babies to not be disruptive and not be crying in public, you should support public breastfeeding.